Hello, Gobs, and welcome to another episode of our PG Horror Stories. Make sure you read that disclaimer at the beginning. Now, I have to re-record this because I found out there was a lot of background noise in the other recording of this. So, here I go once again, and hopefully it's been a bit, so hopefully it's like a fresh new take. So. Our story comes from the user Bloodless Hands, the male player who essayed every new female player. Obviously, an essay warning. This happened when I was new to TTRPG, set in 2007 or so. Repressed memory that popped up after my last Vent post. Me and my then BF were invited to play TTRPG. Don't remember which system, but it was fantasy, something like D&D. The people running it were men in their 30s, while me, my BF, and the ones inviting us were all in our late teens. Back then, I had yet to figure out I'm a trans man, so everyone, including me, assumed I was a girl. For reasons I didn't understand, I wanted to play a man in the game. GM, one of the 30-year-old men, said no. I don't understand why, but he insisted I play a woman. He said no one can play anything other than their real gender. Boring, I thought, so I ended up playing a female elf warrior. Yeah, there is some truth. I think you can play whatever gender the character is. I think you can play man and play female. You can be female, play man. You can be whatever, play whatever. It doesn't matter. I think as long as you don't portray it in a sexist way, I think you're fine. The others made their characters. One of the GM's friends, Pete, also in the 30s, had a warlock character, who in game immediately started flirting with my character. I played it off as not interested, which his character didn't like. We played for a while and set up camp. To not get too graphic, Pete asked my elf again if she wants to bang. She does not, and frankly I was a bit freaked out. IRL. GM rolls his eyes as if this is typical Pete, nothing more. Pete's character then roofies my elves and essays her in her sleep. Obviously, that's a lot more graphic word. I forget how quick the user gets right into the story, but man, it still hits me like a truck every time. I think immediately should have said something almost right here if you didn't want that to happen to your character. I forget people are socially awkward and not playing in a group of friends. You know some people and then some other people, so someone should have said something. Okay, moving on. I think they get into it later, so I'm dumbfounded and say I want to attack him when I wake up. GM says that's meta as I was asleep during the essay. I argue that I should at least know something is seriously wrong. My elf should be in pain. They reluctantly agree, but Pete tries to play it off as he's no longer interested in my elf and everything is normal. Yeah, this guy's already why would you want to do that at a table? I don't. And why did the DM let it happen? Just dumb group. Just maybe not all the group, but just dumb people. I wait till nightfall and take Pete's character aside. I then threaten him with my bow. Both Pete and GM tells me again that this is meta, but I tell them I know I was essayed, my lower part was in pain when I woke up from restless sleep. As for who did it, I have an educated guess, it's him. Has been creepy around me all day, while everyone else has been respectable. Pete tries to argue, I end up shooting him in the groin. I later learned the no gender bending rule is because of Pete. According to GM, no one wants to imagine Pete in a dress, but I suspect he's just plain gross when playing a female character, so they outright ban it. I spoke to the GM about the whole thing, and he says, that's just Pete. He does that with every female character. And that was that. Wow. That was a short, but definitely a horror story. Again, as soon as it happened, should have said something, maybe got up and left. It's not a group of friends they invited, and then if the GM didn't want to change it, I mean, I always argue that people should talk outside of the game, like the whole shooting them in the groin, and don't solve problems in the game, solve them outside of the game, usually. I mean, there's some special cases, but most of the time, outside of the game, solutions are the best for everybody involved. Just stop being creeps. Just don't be a creep. Just play the game. Don't do weird stuff to other people's characters or even NPCs. Just Don't be weird. How hard is it to not be weird? Moving on to the next story. This story is posted by Notcam Davis. First time DM gets taken advantage of. So I tried my hand at DMing in 2015. It was D&D 3.5e, and it was a homebrew story set in the Forgotten Realms. I jokingly called it Neverwinter Nights 3, as it involved a lot of the story from the first 2 games, as it involved a regency debate in Neverwinter after Lord Nashnar Alagandar was assassinated. So, the players consisted of Frop, our old friend I'm so friends with, a scout, a ranger, and a druid. Scout was friends with Ranger. Ranger was married to Druid. Druid was also the usual DM. Ranger was a friend of mine from the US Armory, where he had helped me out with some supply situations. Scout and Ranger wanted to be dwarves and brother, which I allowed, and without explaining to me what it would mean for them, they wanted to be werewolves. This is where I messed up. Because I wanted them to have fun and I wanted to do cool things. I didn't realize the bonuses it would give them outside of transformation. Also, Barrett joined later for a few sessions, then stopped showing up. Okay, so setting up the group, friends with Frop, friends with Ranger, and then the Scout and Druid are tag-alongs. That's right. Yes, that's what it... Ranger was a friend, yes, okay. So, friend group, so you kind of, it's good. Like I said, sometimes you can talk to them, but with your friends, you kind of want to be more relaxed. Not everyone has the same friendship level. Like, I'm really close with my friends. I can tell them, like, I can be straight up with them. And some people, you can call them friends, but you're not that close yet. So talking to them outside of the game could be awkward. So let's continue. So everything started fine. Ranger and Scout were cool with arriving to the camp separately, one at a time, to set the scene and introduce their characters. The Druid wanted to be outside, unaffiliated, because it fit her character. Cool. Until it came up time to recruit her. I spent an hour having a major NPC talk to her and her basically not caring. She told me, OOC, that I need to give her a reason, and anyone else she would have refused to join the party without a reason that benefits her character. Now guys, I know I'm already stopping it again, but remember, this is a team game. I would argument, unless you talk with your group, do not build characters that are going against the grain, because it can be really hard to work them into the party, especially acting like this. Even if it's in character, acting like this is really, like I said, they spent an hour of game time just trying to convince someone's character to join. I would say from the DM side, if this went on that long, I would just make a new character that wants to join the party. Yeah, just talk to them. That would be the thing. Just talk to them like, hey. But again, people are socially awkward. You don't know those people that well. You don't want to be rude or anything. Especially this person, the poster, is a first-time DM. So that would be pretty awkward. I get the luxury of having a group of friends that we are, everyone's chill in my group. So this one is 2 friends and then 2 people that aren't that close. They're connected to the other 2. So, you don't know everybody in the group, and being a first-time DM, I'm really nervous. So, anyways, most people I would assume are nervous first-time DM. Anyways, one thing I like doing is giving my players evolving items. Every other level. In 5e, it's now every ASI level or every 5 levels. It gets a new ability or damage increase or damage type. The players noticed as everyone had gotten theirs except the Druid. The Druid refused to take hers, not because she didn't want it, but because I didn't convince her character. She actually got upset because she didn't get it, because I didn't convince her hard enough. Again, don't make argumentative characters if they're just gonna act like this. The Scout, Ranger, and Druid were asked to give feedback since I was new. I expected constructive criticism. What I got was, well, Druid does it this way. Every session ended with I/she would have done it like this, to the point where it slowly devolved into making me feel inferior, like my style wasn't good enough because I didn't subtract XP gain because they did something different than I expected. Scout and Ranger got upset because I didn't use the crit success on skill check house rule. Druid got upset because I needed to remove a bard from the game for a few sessions because player was on vacation and asked me if I could put her character in a damsel in distress situation. Druid was upset because she didn't like the kidnappers were able to get away because everything she did should have worked. Scout and Ranger constantly did everything they could to just win at D&D. Getting upset if anything didn't go their way, including me giving a few enemies silvered weapons just to put them in danger. How would they know? That's metagaming. The whole thing fell apart after all that. Only Frop actually tried to help and his feedback was constructive, so is to this day, especially since he also DMs now. I'm no longer friends with any of them except Frop. Kind of a good riddance. That wasn't as long as I expected, but let's go back. So they wanted constructive criticism and they basically got complained at rather than just, constructive criticism is explaining what's wrong and how they can fix it. They just told them what was wrong and that this other person did it better. The whole crit success on a skill check house rule. Are you sure you're playing 3.5? That's like a 5e thing. I don't think I've ever seen it for 3.5, but I guess I could be wrong. Maybe they didn't expect they were playing 3.5. They had to have known. So I guess it's expectations, but again, you're a first time DM. They should have been way lax. Like, did they not know you were first time? I don't know. They should have definitely been way easier on a first time DM, First time, they were gonna get stuff wrong. No one's gonna be perfect at playing the first time. Even if you were to run a module, it would be awful. So I'm not gonna comment too much on the other things. It's just a lot of this was talk to the players, but obviously I don't think that would have worked. I don't know. From the sounds of it, since Frop remained the only friend and all the others weren't. So sad to see people go, but if you're doing better now and you have better games, or just better in general, then good riddance. That's my Goblin King advice. Moving on to our third story, another short one here. My GF at the time sacrificed their character as a lash out at me. Not sure if this truly counts as horror story, but oh well. Trigger warning, in-game sewer slide, as everybody else calls it. It was 2022. Me and a college friend group had started playing D&D after getting hyper-fixated on it. The DM was running Curse of Strahd, and we were all excited. Okay, I've listened to a lot of horror stories, and you always see Curse of Strahd come up, and that makes me very worried because I'm currently in a Curse of Strahd campaign. It's kind of on a hiatus, so I heard Curse of Strahd itself is both good and bad. I think the main thing was you have to go in and change stuff around yourself. You can't just run the module straight, because the module itself includes lots of TPKs and whatnot. So that's a little whatever. Now, moving on. For context, I was rooming with my GF at the time, and we were both playing. She was playing a rogue while I was playing a cleric. She was incredibly excited the entire time. Session 0 went great and all that. Yeah, we love Session 0. Okay, guys, always do Session 0. Unless you're obviously in a close-knit friend group or whatever. Session 0 is a good way to filter out how a game's gonna go. Then came the Death House. It was supposed to be one session, but due to a bunch of faffing about and starting late, we split it into 2 sessions. After the first, she seemed alright and was excited for the rest of Curse of Strahd after the not great Death House. Yeah, I can agree. Death House is not a good. It's one of those TPK things. That house was crazy. We also, I think, we were about to split it into 2 sessions, but we kind of just sped it up near the end so we could jump straight into the campaign. So for those who don't know, Death House is like the intro section to Strahd. I'm not sure if this is true for the module. I didn't read it, but it's supposed to take your characters from level 1 to 3, and Curse of Strahd isn't. I don't think it's the best module if you don't go and edit it. During session 2, we made it through a pretty fun second half. My spell slots kinda deteriorating at the end. My GF constantly was looking over at my spell sheet at my slots, noticing them getting low. We made it to the basement room with all the cultists in the center platform, demanding a sacrifice. The party, including me, still tired, prepared to fight. GF then had her PC walk up onto the center and sewer slide. Or whatever. That sounds so silly having to say that, but as the sacrifice. The way out of the death house was open without a fight, as my character, both in character and because I was confused, tried to heal her up past 0-8 hit points. That's when I realized why she was checking on my sheet, to see if I had spell slots or not. This was planned. The session ended there, with people confused as to why she had done so, but the DM saying it was cleared with her before. This is all fine. Really though, if she didn't want to play anymore or she was busy from schoolwork, which she was, then yeah, all of this was good. And good on her for finding a way out to mesh with the story. But the actual horror part comes next. I think the horror part was playing Curse of Strahd. During the next sessions of Strahd, she was passive-aggressive to me the entire time with texting. And in general, it put me in a frustrated mood. If she didn't want to hang out with this group anymore, then why did she still outside of D&D? And more so, why didn't she tell me that me continuing wasn't okay? This ended in the entire group feeling bummed out and quitting around session 4. She still continued to be weird about D&D and said I shouldn't have tried healing her character, despite that being what my character would do as a neutral good cleric. So there's nothing wrong with that. The what my character would do is a very infamous phrase for bad people explaining horrible endgame action. So yeah, I didn't mean it here. It was perfectly fine here. Perfectly fine. I mean, if it truly is what your character would do and it's not disrupted to everyone else, then boom, you're fine. So it kind of soured D&D for me for years, and I haven't really gotten back into it until now. Me and her broke up a while later for unrelated reasons, but the entire situation of how she treated me after doing so instead of having honest communication about not having fun just kind of lingered. So I wanted to know if this counts as a horror story. TLDR, now XGF sacrificed her character, used that and my continued playing with the group as a point of contention in our relationship. Does it count as a horror story? Yeah, I would say so. That's because, I mean, it did ruin D&D for you, so in a way that is kind of a horror story of itself. You said everything perfectly. She should have just told you everything outside of the game, that she didn't want to play anymore, she didn't want to play with the group, she didn't want to see you playing with the group. Open communication is good, but it appears you guys have broken up. I hope you can get back, maybe not into D&D, but into tabletop role-playing games in general. I would suggest reading other systems because they might spruce things up, they might be different. So you can have a positive outlook on doing storytelling scenarios with other people. I don't have much to say on that besides don't play Curse of Strahd. I'm just kidding. If you play Curse of Strahd, just read through the module and change things around. I think you'll have a much better time running it and or playing in it. That's all my stories for today. I hope this is shorter than the last one, because that was a doozy to edit, but knowing me, I've probably rambled on for too long. I would like to say these stories may or may not be real. Things fly over my head, so this could have been faked. I like to perceive everything as true, and even if it's not true, it still makes a fun theoretical to go over and give advice about if it were to happen. Check the Twitter. If you have your own horror stories, you can write them down in the comments. If you don't want to be, if you want to do it anonymously, I have a Gmail that you can send your stories to. Be them real or be them fake. Not only horror stories, I'll take any type of story. So I hope you guys have a good lop of a day.